Good morning, friends. I am Akhil, CRT trainer for Durga Software Solutions, and today we have a session on jumbled sentences. Okay. So, what do you know about jumbled sentences? Have you seen this question anywhere? These kinds of questions. They regularly appear in campus recruitment exams, as well as in bank exams, bank PU and clerical exams, and also in staff selection commission exams. Okay, so we can divide jumbled sentences into two types. One is called the sentence jumble, where a sentence is broken into fragments and it will be mixed up, jumbled, and what you have to do, you have to rearrange it. And the second type is called the paragraph jumble. Paragraph jumble consists of 5 or 6 sentences which are mixed up again, and what you have to do, you have to form a meaningful paragraph out of it, right? So the first type is not very common. The most common one is this second type, paragraph jumble. Okay, so today we'll be dealing with only paragraph jumbles. Fine. So here the basic principle is use your logic and reasoning. Okay, here what you are using is maybe 40% you are using English grammar and comprehension, and the other 60% is your logic. Okay, the same part of your mind which works when you are doing mathematics and reasoning questions, that has to work when you are doing jumbled sentences also, right? So what shortcut should we follow? Is there any shortcut for jumbled sentences? Actually, there are not many shortcuts. The main thing you have to keep in mind is follow an order, right? There is always an order for things which happen in life. That is what we call chronology. So that order of things you have to keep in mind. Imagine I am asking you to come and write a sentence on the board. So what will you do first? If I ask you to come and write a sentence on the board, what will you do first? First you have to stand up, right? You will stand up. Then what will you do? You will start walking towards me. You will start walking towards the board. You will take a pen, and then yes, you will remove the cap and then start writing, right? So this order has to be there. Same thing in jumbled sentence also. You have to find out that order. That is your task when you do jumbled sentences. Okay? But there are certain points which we can keep in mind. There are certain shortcuts, 1 or 2 shortcuts, which I'll tell you now. Okay? So first thing, what is the first thing you have to do? The first thing you have to do is this is the first and foremost thing you have to do. Instead of jumping directly into the questions, first you read all the sentences, because we should find out what is happening in the paragraph, right? Then only we will be able to find out the order and arrange. So first you should find out what is the topic, what is being talked about in the paragraph. That you have to find out first, and then only start solving. So when you read all the sentences, you will get an outline of what is happening. Okay, a vague idea of what the writer is speaking about in the paragraph. Okay, and after that you will get a small hints. Maybe this is the first sentence, maybe this is the last. Okay, and the second step is there may be many methods of doing jumbled sentences. Maybe some people try to find out which is the last sentence. Some people may find out which is the middle sentence. But according to me, the safest method is you first locate the first sentence, find out which is the first sentence, and automatically you will find out all the other sentences. Okay? So this is what you have to do. Locate the first sentence and then discover the chronological order. Okay? So how will we find out the first sentence? How will we find out? Do you have any idea how to locate the first sentence in a paragraph jumble? The clues will be there in the sentences itself. Okay? What I mean is that start reading the first two words of each sentence. Suppose a sentence begins with this word, then. Do you think it can be the first sentence? No. Why? Because if I want to say then, there must be something else before that. Right? This then is usually a word which we use to connect two sentences. Here is sentence 1, here is sentence 2, and this then is connecting those two sentences. So if you find this word then you must guess that there is another sentence before this one. Okay? Similarly, there are certain other words which give you such clues. For example, all the pronouns. Do you know what pronouns are? What are pronouns? Yes, he, she, it. So what is their function? Exactly. So pronouns stand instead of nouns, right? Instead of saying Raju or Ravi or Rama, I can say he. And if it's a woman's name, I can say she. And if it's a non-living thing, I would say it. Right? So pronouns stand instead of nouns. So if a sentence begins with he, then you can safely assume that it is not the first sentence. Right? Because before you start with a pronoun, you have to introduce what the noun is. So if you find a sentence which begins with he, then you should guess that there is another sentence with the name. Who does this he refer to? Who does this he refer to? That you have to search and find out. Okay? Similarly, all the other pronouns like she or it, etc. And same is the case with these words. Because, therefore, however, so, also, not only. Okay? So if you find such words in the beginning of any sentence, then you should understand that that sentence is not the first sentence. Okay? So this list is not exhaustive. I have only given you a few words. There are many other words like this. When you read the sentence, you will understand them. Okay? And then you will know that those sentences are not the first sentences. Okay? So whatever clues I gave you now, all that will become clearer when we start doing questions. Okay? So shall we start doing questions? Okay. So we'll start. So take a look at the first question. Okay? please go through your handouts. You will find that there are how many sentences? 6 sentences. 6 sentences jumbled up. Okay, so these 6 sentences originally formed a meaningful paragraph. Now they are jumbled up. So you have to rearrange and form the meaningful paragraph, and then you have to answer the questions given below. There are 5 questions. So now our task is to reassemble the jumbled paragraph. So as I told you, what is the first thing you have to do? Read all the sentences, read all the 6 sentences. Okay, just quickly read all the 6 sentences and tell me what is the paragraph about. Okay, so the paragraph is about AIDS. Okay, so even without rearranging the sentences you can get that idea what the paragraph it is about. So we know it's about AIDS. And what is AIDS? It's a disease, right? So what we have in this paragraph is a description of the disease. So now we have understood what the paragraph is about. So the next step is find out sentence number 1, which is the first sentence. So how can we find out? Can we take sentence B as the first sentence? Why not? Yes, it begins with and, right? It begins with and, which is a conjunction, which means it is a word which joins 2 sentences. So definitely there is some other sentence before this sentence. So we have eliminated it. So B is not the first sentence. So which other sentence? Tell me. Any idea? Yes, first there must be an introduction about AIDS, right? If I want to speak about AIDS, first I will have to tell what is AIDS. Then I will say what causes it. Then I will say what happens to the patients, right? That is a standard procedure of speaking about a disease. So keeping that in mind, can you find out which is the first sentence? E. Yes, that is right. E is the first sentence. Why? Because that statement introduces our topic. That statement introduces what AIDS is. So it is said AIDS is a disease caused by a virus called HIV. Right? So that is the first sentence. Now we have to follow the order. So now we got the thread. Now we know where to start from. So accordingly now we should find out which is the second sentence. So I begun giving the introduction about AIDS. I finished the introduction. So now I should describe the disease, right? So now which can be the second sentence? Which one? A. See, after introducing the disease, I should tell what it can do, right? After introducing the sentence, I have already told that AIDS is a disease caused by a virus called HIV. So the next step is to tell what the disease can do. So that has to be F. Okay. This disease destroys part of body's immune system. That is what AIDS does. So now we should ask the question, so what? Or what next? Okay. We should ask the question, what next? What happens after that? What happens after the disease destroys part of the body's immune system? Exactly. If the body's immune system is destroyed, then it results in the victim's inability to defend themselves from any infections leading to death. Okay, so that is the order. First we introduce the disease, then we said what it can do to the body, and next we said what happens as a result of the destruction of immune system. So we have got the first three sentences. So now we have three more sentences with us. So which can be the fourth sentence? Someone has told me B. Any other option? D. Someone is saying D. So which one should we select? So nobody is going with C.